All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of What's What BR. Today we have Teri Casso with us from the St. Elizabeth Foundation. Teri, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Delighted to be with you.
Awesome. Got some good weather out there today, right? Last week.
Well, I would
Couldn't
like to
get
see
much
just
better.
a little more sunshine, but we'll take what we've got.
Yeah, I like the cooler. I like it cold, so it's doing well. So jumping in, appreciate you taking some time to come talk to us. But kind of out of the gate, what is St. Elizabeth Foundation? What do you do there for anybody who doesn't know?
So St. Elizabeth Foundation is an adoption agency in Baton Rouge, and I'm its executive director. We have been here since 1988. I don't know, you may be familiar with Gay and Hayes Town. Mr. Town is the son of the architect, A. Hayes Town. Mr. Town was as an adult, was the builder of A. Hayes Town houses. And so they worked together collaboratively to build some beautiful homes in Baton Rouge and in surrounding areas and across the country. So in the late 80s, Mr. Town, I like to say, he has a brainchild, but this was really his heart child. He loved adoption. He believed that people in Baton Rouge needed a resource for that, and that would function as a nonprofit as opposed to a profit center. And so he and Gay decided to do one. Mr. Town was the kind of man that he'd put his money where his mouth was, and he wanted to do it, and so he did it, and he funded it, and it took it several years to get to the point where it was self-sustaining. But he's still engaged. He comes by once a week and makes sure we're all doing okay, although he's well into his 80s now. His children and grandchildren are part of the board of directors. So it's a family boutique adoption agency in Baton Rouge.
Okay. And so is there, for anybody who doesn't, is there any tie with, like St. Elizabeth? We hear that name in the hospital associate, in the hospital networks, and we've heard it before, but is it just completely separate or?
Well, funny you would ask. There's only one thing that St. Elizabeth Hospital and St. Elizabeth Foundation had in common, and that was me. Because at one time I was the board chair at St. Elizabeth Hospital and the executive director here at St. Elizabeth Foundation, but they are not in any other way related. The nuns in the FMOL system had named St. Elizabeth Hospital in Gonzales for one of the saints that they were affiliated with, and Mr. Town named this organization relative to St. Elizabeth of Hungary, who was the patron saint of mothers. So that was, and he's a good Episcopalian, but that was his choice for a name.
There we go. So tell me, right now we're date ourselves. We are November 4th, and November is a pretty big month for you guys. What happens there?
Across the country, November is National Adoption Month. So we try to elevate our profile in our communities and in communities where women are in need of our help. And so we do things like this podcast. We do a little television from time to time. And, we also use it to honor our moms who have selflessly placed their children in order to give them, in most cases, an opportunity that they just can't provide. We celebrate them by hosting them for a luncheon and reaching out to them regularly to make sure that they're doing okay. Many, of course, we lose track of over the years, but we try to stay in touch with as many as we can, and we acknowledge them, particularly in the month of November. Now, of course, I think one of the most important things we do is help our adoptive families to honor their birth parents, the birth parents of the children that they are blessed to be able to parent.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot with them, but also in kind of prepping for us, to talk a little bit today. I saw recently you guys, were nominated for, was it the Angel in Adoption,
Angels in
award? Is it?
Adoption. Yes,
Yeah.
Angels in
What is that?
Adoption is a national award. It's done by the Congressional Coalition for Adoption, and Garrett Graves was kind enough, and we are so thrilled that he nominated St. Elizabeth, and we did receive that award, and we've just been absolutely thrilled by that. We had the opportunity to meet by video with Congressman Graves last week, and we received our accolades. Typically, that would be done in Washington at a National Coalition for Adoption, at a Congressional Coalition for Adoption gala. But of course, with COVID still an issue in our communities, it was done virtually this year.
Yeah, no, that's Garrett's a great guy. Garrett comes to the show often. I think we've got him in. I think he's back in a couple of weeks. So
Wonderful!
We'll have him
Tell him
on.
I said hi.
Absolutely. So.
We just really appreciate him. This was a great honor for St. Elizabeth. There are only 40 honorees each year across the country. And so to be so honored was wonderful for us. Mr. and Mrs. Town have been honored many years ago by the Congressional Coalition. And Robin Marrero, a local East Baton Rouge Parish lady who is an adoptive mom and a licensed clinical social worker, she and her husband, Hugo Marrero, were honored a few years ago. So St. Elizabeth and St. Elizabeth families have been privileged to be a part of Angels in Adoption for at least 3 times that I can think of.
So tell me, you mentioned with the pandemic slowed some things or wasn't allowed to kind of get there to Washington to do the award, and every business and everybody that I've talked with, the pandemic's changed things. What have you seen? How's it changed things in your world from the adoption side of things? Is it completely different? Is it still kind of the same, or is it more just the same general idea, but the mechanics have to be a little bit different? So
it changed a lot. It was complicated. We had to change the way we operated as an office. We went home and we worked from home. Secondly, we had to be very cognizant of our protecting ourselves in order not to infect a pregnant woman. Or especially early in the pandemic, we had really very little idea how that was going to impact women who were pregnant, how it might impact fetuses, how it might impact a child when it was born. So we had to be very cognizant of that. Then we also had to work inside hospitals where for a brief period of time there, we could not even be with our birth mom or the first mom of our clients or our clients. And we couldn't be with her. We couldn't be with the family who was adopting. Sometimes the family that was adopting was not even allowed in the hospital. So it made our world very complicated for several months. And then as things got to be more open, we have been able to get back in hospitals. Adoptive parents once again have courtesy rooms out of where they can take the little baby that is being committed to them by its birth mom and spend bonding time with that baby, take care of it. So it's getting better, but it's still a little different. We are still being very careful in our office. We work half of us in the office at one time and not the other half, so that we can make sure that we don't expose each other, all of our staff, to COVID and end up in a position where we can't take care of our clients. So we've just had to, like every other business, 501c3 nonprofit out there, we've just had to make accommodations.
So tell me, how has, it sounds, you didn't say my favorite word this year, pivot, everybody had to move around.
Oh, yeah.
How do you see, is the need changed, here? You've got, local right here in Louisiana. is there more need, for, families to step up and adopt, or is it there's more people that are looking to adopt? Like, is it changing, or is that not have been affected?
Brandon, that has been cyclical for years. But I will say that we observed that during the pandemic, during the core of the pandemic, our phone rarely rang. Adoptive parents were not calling us. Birth mothers were not calling us. It was just quiet. People had, I think there's a lot of reason for that. People were reluctant to engage with other folks. But I think most importantly, for some women who were struggling, because my observation is that poverty almost always is the motivation for placement of a child. And so women were at home. They were not struggling with childcare. They were receiving stimulus checks. And so I think that it was a little easier for a little while. And women, especially in crisis pregnancies, were saying, well, maybe I can do this. And, but then, all of that ended and people were trying to go back to work. And we suspected that we might see a rise in the placement of slightly older children, those 3-month-olds, 5-month-olds. We did see an increase in calls about that, but only one actual placement in which we were able to confirm that the bear's mom of this baby was like, I can't do this. I'm trying to get back to work. I have to be at work. I thought I could, but I just can't take care of him. And so we helped her very recently to find a family who was open to that little baby, and they have a wonderful relationship with her. Adoption has changed from something that was very private and secretive to something that's wonderfully open today. And so she's able to see how wonderful her little baby's doing, that he's thriving. And his family is able to be encouraging to her and to know her and be able to lift her up. And so, especially in spirit. And then, so it's working out for her. But it was complicated.
It's got to be one of the hardest decisions anyone ever has to make. And so I can't imagine, having to be there.
I think you are absolutely right. I don't think, I'm 65. I've seen a lot of things in my life. I don't think I've ever seen anything any harder than this. I worked many years at Rest Haven here in Baton Rouge. I watched people lose family members. That's tragic and it's painful. But I believe that when you make a conscious decision and have to accept in your heart that you can't do this, that it's just beyond you to provide the opportunity for this child that you would like for this child to have, that's the hardest thing I've ever seen somebody do. And I tell you, we don't have many days around here where we're all dry-eyed.
Well, tell me this, we've got hopefully a lot of people are listening, watching, keeping up with this in the community, and we can, people now know who you are, but what is a community? What can we do? Is there anything that we could do that helps? I know I'm sure you guys are participating with the Giving Day, as a nonprofit that's coming up.
Yeah, think about us. Think about us when 225 Gives happens. We appreciate that very much. And most importantly, lift us up in spirit. This can be very hard, challenging, emotional work. And this team always needs to be lifted up in spirit. Tell others about us. Make your friends and neighbors aware. And I think most importantly, lift up women who, and sometimes their partners, who are having to make what I think is the hardest decision anybody will ever make in their life, the decision to place a child, because one is just not prepared to be a parent, or does not have the resources to be. It's a tough decision. I can't imagine. I ask people all the time, think about your children. Which one of them and how bad would it have had to be for you to say, I'm going to have to sacrifice this one? And, it's for the parent, it's a sacrifice. For the child, it's a gift. And certainly for the couple who adopts, it's a gift. I'm an adopted mom. My daughter's 46. I can't imagine going into this stage of my life in my mid 60s thinking, okay, it's all downhill from here.
Right.
What would I do without my daughter? How would we function without our children? And so I just lift us up. And all those folks who have such difficult decisions to make, either to place or to adopt.
Well, we can definitely do that. We'll keep you guys in mind for the 225 Giving Day, which is coming up. I tell everybody all the money they save on Black Friday is what they've got to give on Giving Day. Is what I've been telling everybody.
We love that. We'd love that. We do adoption very differently. Our families do not. Those families who adopt do not have any upfront expenses that they take care of for a woman who's in a crisis pregnancy. St. Elizabeth operates as a 501c3, so the only time that our parents have a fee associated with their adoption is if a baby's placed with them. So, we're not always profitable. It's called nonprofit. And so, there are some years that this organization digs into its reserves, or in some years it has called on the towns to support it. So, think about us on Giving Day.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking some time and filling us in on what you guys are doing and kind of how things go over there.
Oh, thank you.
I tell everybody you got more important things to do than talk to me. So,
oh no,
I appreciate it.
This is great stuff. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we'd love to have you come back. Maybe tell us how some things go. How things went for you, maybe with Giving Day, or just kind of what it's looking like towards the end of the year. What's coming next. We'll get in touch with you, and we'll do that if you'll come back.
We'd love that. It's always a pleasure for us to elevate our profile in the community, let people know we're here.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it again, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
All right. You too.